You can feel the air escaping from a drafty house, but can you see the money flying out too?
People want to know what they can do, not only to save energy, but obviously that translates into the bottom line, saving money on their utility bills.
So is what you're doing to cut down on your energy costs really working? There's a new way to find out. Plus, a new way to reduce household energy use by up to 90%. That's right, 90%. Goodbye styrofoam. Make room for the mushroom. A new generation of packing material using less energy to make and kinder to the environment.
You can even actually see the husks that I was just holding in my hand that are still in there. This is only after 1 week.
The magic of the mushroom. And President Obama entered office promising millions of clean energy jobs. What will it take to make the promise a reality, and when? We'll mix it up with former Michigan Governor Jennifer Granholm and former Maryland Governor Bob Ehrlich. This is Energy Now. Hello, I'm Thalia Assuras. Welcome to Energy Now, a weekly look at America's energy challenges and what we're doing about them. Your home. It's probably the biggest investment you'll ever make, and energy bills will make up a large portion of your costs. In fact, Americans spend about $250 billion a year on residential energy, and that's why efficiency upgrades can be appealing. Keep cool, stay warm, but pay less, supposedly. Well, you can now determine if your improvements are actually working through a federal pilot program that calculates your energy score. Energy Now's Lee Patrick Sullivan found out how to turn that score into a savings bonanza in this Energy Now Spotlight.
Our electric bill is quite low.
That is great.
Charlottesville, Virginia homeowners Debbie and Louis Steva are waiting on the results of their home energy score.
Let's go check the attic.
All right. Inspector Laura Fiore shows us how it's done.
They have blown fiberglass insulation. It's about 6 inches.
Now, as far as insulation goes, does it look like it has enough?
Well, this was the amount that was required by code when the house was built, but the Department of Energy currently recommends a lot more.
The Stevas are taking advantage of a Department of Energy program that rates the energy efficiency of a home. Think of it as a miles per gallon sticker for your house. Getting this score can enable homeowners to take advantage of up to $25,000 in power-saving loans.
You know, when people talk about reducing their energy use, they always point to cars, but it's homes and buildings that are where the biggest savings can happen, correct?
That's right. I mean, cars are very important, and that's where our dependence on oil comes from, but homes are incredibly important in making our energy system reliable and cost-effective.
The Energy Home Score takes into account several factors, from the type of shingle and color of paint on the outside, to the size of the windows, the amount of insulation, and types of light bulbs on the inside. That right there, well, that's a blower. It seals off the front door, blows air out, so inspectors can check for drafts inside the home.
Now, most people think the best way to make your house more energy efficient is to get new windows, but that's not the case. Well, come inside and I'll show you. According to the experts, properly sealed ductwork is your best bang for the buck.
And luckily, it's also one of the cheapest fixes, unlike pricey double-pane windows.
Windows typically make up only 10 to 15% of the wall area of a house, so they can only have so much impact.
But how does the DOE know that sealed ductwork is more efficient than new windows? How do they know any of these fixes will work? To find answers, I went to Knoxville, Tennessee, where there's a subdivision populated with robo-homes, houses that come to life eating everything in their path. Well, they're not really robots, but there are robotics inside. Knoxville's local utility, the Tennessee Valley Authority, purchased 3 homes in this subdivision. They collaborated with the Electric Power Research Institute and Oak Ridge National Lab to study energy use. House number 1 was left just as the builder finished it. House number 2 was outfitted with off-the-shelf energy-saving products. You know, the types of things that you can pick up at your local home improvement store.
This is the 3rd home, the near zero energy home.
The folks at TVA went wild with this one. It has top-of-the-line solar panels, solar water heaters, an outdoor weather station so the home can predict when to heat and cool itself, also a one-of-a-kind heating and cooling system.
Talk about real-life experience. This isn't a laboratory, this is a house, or is it both?
Actually, it's a good description. It's both. It's a real house and it's also a laboratory environment.
Now this is the cool part. To mimic a normal living environment, in all three homes the ovens turn on and off during normal eating times. A robotic arm opens and closes the refrigerator. Robots also control the shower and the washer and dryers. Now this might look like a trash can to the untrained eye, well, mostly because it is, but it's also a device that mimics the heat and humidity of a human body. Dave Dinsey runs the project.
We have a little electric heater that's plugged in right there, and that comes on to simulate the use of your TV, your desktop boxes, PCs. We have one upstairs and one downstairs.
And those create a lot of heat.
Yeah, and they're using energy, and that's, I mean, if you have any device plugged in that's using electricity, it's going to put heat out.
The Robo Homes have just finished year one of a 3-year experiment. And what have been the results? House number 1 had a monthly energy use of $157. House number 2 used $114 of energy each month. And the Mac Daddy house number 3, it consumed just $37 a month in energy.
That just helps me out a lot.
Back in Charlottesville, the results are in on the home energy score.
You poked and prodded and looked and inspected. Drum roll, please. What's the score?
The score for this house is a 5.
A 5 out of what?
Out of 10. 5 out of 10.
Fiore says that's about a C+. Ouch!
Do you want to get 10 out of 10, or are you going to try to get 7, 8?
I guess. I think 7 or 8 is what I would shoot for.
The biggest energy sucker in a house, if energy sucker can be said on television, was the ductwork.
That's interesting.
Did you guys think that would be the place where you'd save the most energy, is just making sure the ductwork is sealed up?
No, didn't really think about that. Yeah.
That smart woman from the DOE told me that.
Yeah.
So it must be true.
It's got to be.
If the Stevas invest about $30 to properly seal their ductwork, experts say they could save $400 a year on their heating and cooling bills. In Charlottesville, Virginia, Lee Patrick Sullivan, Energy Now.
As we mentioned, the program is in the pilot stage, only available in 11 states. It rolls out to the entire country in November, but you can find out more about the program and how to get an energy audit by logging on to our website, energynow.com. Now, can you seal your house so tightly and insulate so well that you make the furnace and air conditioning obsolete? Throw in energy-efficient devices and a home's energy use can be slashed by a whopping 90%. Welcome to the passive house, accepted in parts of Europe and starting to catch on here. And get this, the folks behind passive home building say it only costs about 8 to 10% more to build one. We toured the first passive house near Washington, D.C. So join us on the tour in this week's Energy Now Hot Zone.
Well, the passive house, the whole program is based on making super energy efficient houses affordably.
A year ago, my father and I went out to Illinois to actually look at one of the first passive houses ever built. And it was roughly 20 degrees outside. We went inside this house and were amazed at how comfortable it was, even next to the windows. So we found a piece of property here in Bethesda, Maryland, and joint ventured with David Peabody to build the first passive house in this area.
So the approach is to reduce your energy demand to the point where you don't need expensive equipment to heat and cool it. In all passive houses, that demand for heating and cooling is reduced to about 10% of the standard code-built house. You don't really need a furnace. One of the goals on this house was to make sure that we did it with off-the-shelf materials.
The products and the techniques that we've used here are done in building all over the place, but it's kind of how we've put it together, how it's been designed, and the care of taping and sealing all of the joints, of making sure there's no leaks, the types of windows that we've used. The windows on the other sides of the houses actually allow sunlight in. The ones on the west side reduce the amount of sunlight coming in.
The thing that's most unique about what we've done here is that we could do it. That an architect with basically 9 days of training. And a builder, and a good builder, who had never done it before, could put this house together. It's going to become mainstream. I don't think it's going to be something fringe, which most people think of it as now.
There are only a dozen passive homes in the U.S., but more than 20,000 worldwide. Coming up, packaging you could eat, almost. A recipe for replacing styrofoam with a magic ingredient, mushrooms, using a lot less energy to make. But first, all the talk of clean energy jobs driving the economy. When are we actually going to see those jobs? We'll hear from former Michigan Governor Jennifer Granholm and former Maryland Governor Bob Ehrlich.
Even an Iraq vet like me who's in really good shape needs good health care, especially when it's top quality and convenient. And it's not just for men. In fact, aren't you a vet, Patricia?
Yeah, I served in the Air Force.
When I come to the VA, the people understand veterans' needs. I get great care with good doctors and nurses and state-of-the-art facilities. Because hey, I was there and I earned it. And if you deployed to Iraq or Afghanistan, including with the Guard or Reserves, you did too. Here's another thing. I'm within 5 years of my time over there, so there's no copay for any service-related condition. That makes a difference to me. So why not come in today? When you check in, you'll get a full medical exam, first thing. Free for vets at the VA. Thanks, Doc. So check us out and see you here.
Can the U.S. lead the global clean energy economy? President Obama says we can, with good old American ingenuity. On Wednesday, the president returned to Gamesa, a company that makes wind turbines outside Philadelphia. He visited as a candidate in 2008, and having declared his 2012 re-election bid earlier in the week, now he's a candidate again.
When it comes to high-end, high-skilled jobs, those are the kind of manufacturing jobs we have to go after. And that's where research, innovation is so important. That's where on something like clean energy, making sure that there's a market for that clean energy is so important. That's what's going to produce manufacturing jobs.
But where are these jobs? Who's hiring the workers? And haven't we heard this before? After all, the president was talking about creating millions of clean energy jobs before he was even elected president. Joining us now for this week's Mix from Berkeley, California, former Michigan Governor Jennifer Granholm. She's now a senior advisor with policy research group Pew Charitable Trusts, and she's about to embark on a clean energy tour across America. And in the studio, former Maryland Governor Bob Ehrlich, now a senior counsel to international law firm King & Spalding. And thanks to both of you for joining us. I'm going to start with Governor Granholm. So where are those jobs? Didn't we hear this before when the president was first running for office?
Well, I can say in Michigan we've seen a lot of them as a result of the investments that came out of the Recovery Act. In fact, Michigan was able to attract, because of policy, about 40, in about 2 years, maybe a year and a half, 47 companies came to Michigan, and they're slated to create 89,000 jobs. These are clean energy jobs in, for example, the electrification of the vehicle, the battery. Those people who make the battery are now working inside of Michigan. Just that sector alone is supposed to create 63,000 jobs from 17 battery companies. So we are seeing in Michigan the effects of the commitment of the United States to that kind of clean energy policy, but we need it to be broader.
Sir, do you agree? Do we need it to be broader? I mean, you don't disagree.
In fact, I think the question was, have you heard this before? You've heard it with Republican and Democratic presidents. So it didn't start with this president. The governor and I agree. Everybody agrees on both sides of the aisle. Are green energy jobs good? Yes. Do they take investment? Yes. But the bottom line is, it's at a rhetorical level, it's very easy to make those statements. Getting from here to there, how do you do it? How do you do it most efficiently? And when does the market catch up, obviously, because American companies, international companies, everybody wants to make a buck.
So what do we do now, Governor Granholm?
Well,
Go ahead.
The United States used to hold the #1 position in private sector clean energy investments. However, Germany and China have leapt over us. Why? Because they have adopted national policy which makes a commitment to a market. So those businesses are deciding to locate there instead of the United States because they're assured of a market. They can build there, they can use they can sell there, and they can export to us.
Is that why you said to a reporter that you have been to China recently and what you heard in China set your hair on fire? Is that what you mean? What did you mean?
I meant that there's clearly there a commitment to creating energy jobs, and they have put that commitment into practice. So they have made an environment there that businesses are choosing to locate, and it's not just about wages, by the way. They're choosing to locate in China and in Germany, which obviously has the same wage structure as us, because they have made a commitment to clean energy. They're saying that in our nation, we're going to commit to purchasing a certain amount of energy from renewable sources, and that creates a market for those businesses there.
Is that what's going to happen here, Governor Ehrlich? Is that what will set your hair on fire, tax incentives and those kinds of things?
Of course, there's two ways to do it, and they're the traditional. We're not breaking new ground here. There are traditional ways. One is private sector, obviously, and when the private sector sees a buck can be made, as the governor was talking about, boom, they'll go.
But she's also saying invest in
the public
renewable
sector,
energy,
invest
right?
Obviously means taxpayer dollars into certain basic research and
Republicans
basic science.
aren't going to do that, though.
Well,
They're already
we'll
saying, you know, Paul Reiner, the House Budget Chairman, is saying, okay, $1 billion a year maybe. President Obama says $8 billion a year maybe.
Well, we'll see, but this gets into another show.
Okay.
We're talking about
there is enormous bipartisan support for a national energy policy. 75% of Republicans believe that we should have a national policy that commits us to getting a certain percentage of our energy from renewable sources and that encourages energy efficiency. 75% of Republicans. I'm not talking about a carbon tax. I'm not talking about cap and trade.
Exactly.
Just a commitment to energy by a clean
Governor,
energy standard.
You're right. And again, at a rhetorical level, everybody supports it. They're green jobs. They're good stuff. What you're doing is terrific. I think everybody supports running around the country and doing what you're doing, which I think is a fantastic thing for a governor to do. But again, this is where the rubber meets the road. How many billions of dollars are you talking about, given the trillions of dollars in debt and deficits?
All I'm talking about right now is a clean energy standard. Clean energy standard, right? That doesn't cost you any money at all, and everybody agrees it should happen. That should be number one.
You know, as I said, there are issues that we can all agree, but then what is going to be the number in this coming budget? That's where the rubber meets the road, and obviously that's where both sides have to sit down.
But how do we get there?
How do you get there?
How do you get there?
How many dollars do you spend?
And that's
and
what
in
I'm
what
asking
budget?
you. What will the Republicans do, for example? What will they do?
Well, we're talking about trillions of dollars, obviously. So $1 billion, $8 billion is going to be one of the easier decisions they have to make.
Governor Granholm?
Let me just say, just to close this out, because I know you got to go, but the bottom line is the budget is in trouble because we are not creating jobs. Other countries are creating jobs because they've got a commitment to this sector. This is the biggest market around. If we miss this boat, every day these businesses are making decisions and they're locating somewhere else. This could create millions of jobs in America, which of course could help the budget. The bottom line is we have to send a signal to the market. If we don't send that signal, the market is going to go elsewhere where the signal has been sent by other
countries. It has to be a function of sound science, however. It's not just government throwing money because it sounds good or it looks real good in a political campaign. I'm not saying
you're saying the science isn't there.
I've seen it before. I've been in Congress, seen that, done that. So it has to be a function of really good science, which will lead to solid job creation.
Well, I have to thank both of you. I think we're going to have both of you join us once again, or maybe the two of you can go on a tour together.
That would be fun.
I invite you. Come with me. That's great.
Good to see you, Governor.
Governor Ehrlich, thank you very much.
Good
Governor
seeing you.
Granholm, thanks so much to you as well.
You bet.
So what do you think about green jobs? Well, let us know in our online poll. Go to our website, energynow.com. Here's the question: can green jobs power our economy? Weigh in and become part of the energy conversation at energynow.com. Coming up next, a mushrooming enterprise.
So all those little fibers are reaching out towards the husks because they see it as food, and at the same time they're bonding it all together in this network of fibers.
Feeding on organic material, the marvelous mushroom helping to create a new kind of styrofoam.
For you. Hey, Mom.
You know, girls, I used to cheer back in my day. Ready? Okay! Go team!
That was amazing, amazing, amazing. Mom, That was amazing.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of siblings in foster care who'll take you just as you are.
When you get a new high-tech gadget, maybe a new TV or a computer, how much thought do you give to what it arrives in? Probably none. Well, one U.S. company is picking up the slack for all of us. Ecovative Designs has developed a new natural way to protect your booty by turning to Mother Nature. Energy Now's Josh Zepps explains in this Energy Next.
Mushrooms! I love them. Stuffed mushrooms, sautéed mushrooms, baked mushrooms, mushroom pot pie, mushroom soup, mushroom stew, mushroom styrofoam packing material. I don't really understand that last one, which is why I'm here in Green Island, New York, to find out.
At first glance, you could be in a restaurant kitchen. Storage containers full of rice and grains, cereal by the mounds. But if you look a little closer, that pile of succulent cereal starts to look more like honey bunches of buckwheat hulls and cotton gin trash. If this is a kitchen, I'm eating in tonight. Luckily, it's not. It's a lab. And what you see here ends up here. Nope, this is not a delicious Rice Krispie treat. It's the next generation of packaging. Lightweight, sturdy, and you don't even manufacture it, you grow it. It's called Eco Cradle, developed by Ecovative Designs as a green, energy-efficient alternative to styrofoam. But the way the two materials are created, and the way they're destroyed, could not be more different. That white stuff there is mushroom roots, or mycelium, those natural, sprawling, sticky, veiny threads of fungus.
I used to see this mycelium in the woods growing up as a kid and thought it was a cool glue. We essentially use mycelium as a glue in our process to bind particles together, just like you'd use a plastic as a resin to hold foams together.
That's Eben Bayer, who invented the mushroom packaging and founded the company with his college buddy, Gavin McIntyre.
So what do you got against styrofoam?
Well, there's a couple big issues with expanded polystyrene or styrofoam. The first being the energy content in this material. It's made from a precious resource, fossil fuels.
Styrofoam is a brand name for expanded polystyrene, and Eben says that making an eco-cradle takes just 1/10 the energy of making the same amount of styrofoam.
The other big problem with this material is it's got all this energy in it, but it doesn't break down at all in the natural environment.
Think about it. The moment the styrofoam is ripped off your son's new Xbox or your uncle's new wall-mountable singing bass, it goes straight to the trash to clog up a landfill. Hardly any recycling programs will take it. But EcoCradle disintegrates harmlessly. To understand how and why, I got to see it being made with Ecovative Environmental Director and Design Engineer Sam Harrington.
This is the raw material for EcoCradle. So this is cotton gin byproducts. It's all the burrs and the sticks and twigs, everything except for the fiber that makes your shirt. This bin agitates it and sucks it up into our production system, and from there it's pasteurized. That kills any mold spores or bacteria or bugs that might come off the farm.
Right, so there could be bugs and dangerous spores in this that I'm holding here.
Yeah, who knows what comes off the farms.
Sure, it's dirty, but that's kind of part of the beauty. This process can use all kinds of agricultural waste depending on what's native to the region. One place might use sawdust, another rice husks. Keeping the energy output to a minimum is the goal, so Ecovative makes sure they get the waste material from local farms. And unlike fossil fuels, this garbage will always be cheap. Peak oil, perhaps, but you don't hear about peak seed husk.
This is EcoCradle after it's grown for about a week. So we take that plant matter that we showed you before and add mycelium.
Yeah, you can even actually see the husks that I was just holding in my hand that are still in there. This is only after 1 week.
Yep. So all those little fibers are reaching out towards the husks because they see it as food, and at the same time they're bonding it all together in this network of fibers.
This is where the fungus performs its magic. It's a process that takes place every day, everywhere from the rainforest floor to that old Chinese takeout in the back of my fridge. Mycologist Sue Van Hook takes me into the woods to explain.
So the fungi are this entire kingdom of organisms that are underneath our feet.
The fungi are debris chasers. They're nature's recyclers. If we didn't have the fungi, this woods would be up to the sky in leaves and twigs and carcasses.
So that job of a fungi in the woods, to be the demolisher of debris, is that essentially what you're trying to harness at Ecovative?
That's exactly what we're doing. We go out into the woods, we find a mushroom or a fruiting body and take a little piece of tissue.
That little bit of tissue is taken to a lab where technicians clone it repeatedly. It's an impressive example of sustainable production. There's no strain on the fungi, and Ecovative has an endless supply of an already renewable resource. A few cells from this tiny little specimen are all that's needed to make thousands of EcoCradle parts.
Can you see all the little microscopic fibers?
Yeah, all the little hairs, it's all little fibers.
On a microscopic level, it's a busy scene. The interconnecting branches of mycelia are so numerous and so haphazardly sprawling, they could have been designed by the Los Angeles Department of Freeways.
Looks like mold to me.
Yep, it is.
Eventually, the block of mycelium is baked at a low temperature to dry it out, lock in its shape, and kill the shroom. This is the most energy-intensive part of the process, but it's still a whole lot better than Styrofoam's superheated steam.
And so I guess this is the final product, right?
Yep.
I know that you guys are working on applications to do with home insulation. You can definitely see that here.
Right, it's great insulation and it's fireproof.
It's fireproof?
Yep.
Can you prove that?
I sure can.
You might think something made entirely of organic material would burn like organic material. But no! Although please don't try this at home, I'm a professional reporter. So I may not know what I'm doing, but I am insured.
And now, regular styrofoam. Ooh.
Ditching artificial packaging for all natural packaging could reduce our fossil fuel consumption, our trash, energy costs, and carbon emissions. Ecovative has big plans.
This technology is in its infancy, so it's sort of like where plastics was in the 50s. We expect to continue to extend the technology, eventually even making things like thin films, like a cellophane.
If these guys have their way, in the future, all packaging will be energy efficient, biodegradable, and edible. Though it could probably use a little salt. In Green Island, New York, Josh Zepps, Energy Now.
One new place you may see Ecovative packing material is if you buy a Dell computer. Look for the mushrooms when Dell starts pilot shipments soon for its PowerEdge R710 server. Dell wants to cut 20 million pounds of current packaging material by 2012 by using earth-friendly material instead. Ecovative is also teaming up with Ford to develop a biodegradable mushroom foam for bumpers, side doors, and dashboards. And that's it for this week's Energy Now. If you have comments or any questions for upcoming guests, let us know. Upload your video questions or remarks to our YouTube channel, Energy Now News. Please give us your name and where you're from, and keep those remarks short, if you will, less than 30 seconds. You can also friend us on Facebook, join our discussion pages, or follow us on Twitter. Search Energy Now News on all those sites. I'm Thalia Assuras. See you next week.